What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a standard deck centered around Darkrai-GX and Darkrai-EX in a turbo dark deck of sorts, and even though turbo is kind of a loose term in this case, but regardless, before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys liked this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton and lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. And as for the question of the day, you might be looking over this deck list and seeing one card that's actually out of the ordinary, like one card that you're like, what the heck is that doing there? And that is Wishful Baton. Now, this is a card that came out in Burning Shadows, and I was really kind of back and forth about how much I liked it. I mean, I looked at it and I saw if the Pokemon this card is attached to is your active and is knocked out by damage from an opponent's Pokemon, move up to 3 basic energy cards from that Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. So I was like, you know what? That's not too useful in a lot of cases, but in certain decks, like it seems like it could actually be somewhat useful. And this is the first deck that I've given it a try in. And it's basically an EXP share that goes on the active Pokemon. And so my question of the day is, what do you think is more useful in decks where keeping energy on the board is absolutely essential? Like this Turbo Darkrai deck, like a Primarina GX deck, Aura even did like a Noivern GX deck with EXP shares. What do you think is more useful? Wishful Baton or EXP share in terms of conserving the most energy consistently? In my opinion, first of all, those two tools they're really just kind of meh at this point because everybody's running like 2 Field Blowers, so getting rid of those is sometimes a priority for them, and they're very easy to get rid of, so all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, now I have no way of keeping my energy on board. But in and of themselves, like disregarding Field Blower, I'm really torn about which I like better in these types of decks, which you can tell by the fact that I'm running 2 of them. So Wishful Baton is a single item. Like, it is just one item that allows you to conserve 3 energy, and just from Wishful Baton, you're able to go from a fully powered up Darkrai-EX to another fully powered up Darkrai-EX. Like, you're able to go from having your attacker completely powered up to having something on the bench that was completely clean powered up immediately just because of this one item without having to manually attach or anything like that. Like, with a knockout, Wishful Baton theoretically conserves more energy. That being said, EXP share works no matter what Pokemon is knocked out. Like, obviously, except for the Pokemon with EXP share. Like, if you have energy all spread out and you have one Mon with EXP share, it's going to get the energy no matter which Mon on the board gets knocked out. Like, Wishful Baton, it has to be the Mon that gets knocked out in order for you to conserve energy, but EXP share, you get it from all over. So I honestly can see an argument for either. If I would have to lean one way or the other, like if I was going to take this deck to a tournament, I would probably go EXP share just because like it gets the energy from anywhere. Meanwhile, Wishful Baton is only from the active or that one Pokemon that has the tool on it. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn, leaning slightly towards EXP share, but let me know which you think would be the better item or the better tool to run in heavy energy reliant decks, and why. I would love to hear what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. But anyway, onto the deck. Like I said, it is centered around the combination of Darkrai-GX and Darkrai-EX. Mainly, the main attacker is Darkrai-EX, 180 HP, Dark Pulse, 20 plus 20 for each darkness energy attached to all of your Pokemon. And then Darkrai-GX has the Restoration ability. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in your discard pile, you may put it onto your bench and then attach one darkness energy from your discard pile to it. So basically, it's like if this is in the discard pile with an energy, it's on your bench with an energy. So you just combine those two together, try to get as much darkness energy on the board as possible, and just take a bunch of knockouts. Like, it's very straightforward idea. And as you can tell by the numbers of Mons, I mean, I have 4, the absolute max number of this Darkrai-EX, and then I have 2 of this Darkrai-GX, because the Darkrai-GX you can continually just like recycle. If it gets knocked out, you just put it right back on the bench with an energy. Like, you can recycle through those pretty easily, so you don't need to run a particularly high number of them. And then the rest of the Mons are just kind of support. Tauros is there for its GX attack. That way, if our Darkrai or Darkrai-GX gets heavily damaged, we can just Ninja Boy into Tauros and then delete something. Just have that fear of that all the time with our opponent, and then we are also running one Yveltal to help kind of with the mitigate the fighting weakness to some extent, because I mean Tauros and both Darkrai are weak to fighting. Yveltal has a resistance to fighting, so it's just kind of changing up the weaknesses so we don't auto lose to fighting types. And also, I was speaking of the Tauros having the GX attack that we use in this match. There's no way that we're using Dead End GX. Like, literally the only way that we can possibly use Dead End GX is if our opponent plays a deck that statuses their own Pokemon. So otherwise, the GX attack on this Darkrai-GX is pretty useless, so that's why Tauros is there, because we're able to abuse its GX attack. And then 3 Lele, running a little bit higher number because we run a lower number of Pokemon overall. And then we run a couple tech supporters in this deck anyway, so having Lele there is kind of a, well, I can search out my Ninja Boy or my Kukui or my PCL if I want to. As for the rest of the cards, 2-1 of Escape Rope and Switch. I'm running a kind of heavier line of these, even though I have Altar of the Moon, just because I've run into situations. Well, first of all, Escape Rope acts as like a item Guzma of sorts. Like, it doesn't let you pick the exact one you want to switch in, but it still can disrupt your opponent. It can get a Darkrai to the bench to be able to Max Elixir onto while still having the free retreat. Basically, what Escape Rope and Switch allow you to do is have a Darkrai active, put an energy on it, switch, or Max Elixir to something on the bench, switch it with that, Max Elixir onto the Darkrai as well. Basically, it just allows you more opportunities to Max Elixir to things that you want to, and not just throw energy randomly onto the bench. That's what these guys are mainly here for. 2 Field Blower, because Garbodor, well, because of Choice Bands, and Garbotoxin does ruin this strategy a little bit because of Lele and Darkrai. Absolute max number of Max Elixirs so that we can get as many energy on the field in addition to our manual attachment as possible. Switch, I already talked about that. 4 Ultra Ball guaranteed gets us what Pokemon we want when we want it, and the discard part of Ultra Ball is slightly mitigated by the fact that we can discard a Darkness and a Darkrai-GX, and those actually count as resources. 3 Alter the Moon, sorry, so that all of our Pokemon have free retreat except for Tauros. But I mean, if you put a Darkness on Tauros, and then you can still manually retreat it just for that 1 energy retreat cost, so that's pretty nice. And then for the supporters, running the 4-4-3 of Sycamore and Guzma, just kind of what I'm comfortable with. Like, that's what I've seen. Like, the more I play with this, the more I like this line. Just having access to the most draw supporters that aren't Lily or Shauna, and then having 3 Guzma so that you have them when you want them. 1 Acerola just is kind of a pseudo max potion, but also being able to like pick up basically like being able to pick up a Darkrai that's kind of damaged. I mean, yeah, it does get energy off the board, or also pick up a Lele that's damaged and stuff like that. Basically, it just gives you options to work with if you have something that's damaged that you just want to get out of the active spot. It's a very, very tech that I rarely use, but in situations that I have used it, it's been really, really clutch. 2 Ninja Boy for the Darkrai into Tauros play that I was talking about earlier, where a Darkrai gets damaged, then you just Ninja Boy into Tauros and destroy something with Mad Bull GX. 1 Pokemon Center Lady, just, we want our attackers to last as long as possible, so PCL helps with that, helps us get out of different status conditions, mainly paralysis and stuff like that. 1 Kukui to boost the damage output. Kukui draws us 2 cards and is also like another darkness energy on board. As for the tools, like I said, I'm split between Wishful Baton and EXP Share. I can't decide which one I like more. Like, if you like Wishful Baton more, I still suggest running some EXP Share, but if you like EXP Share, I'd say just go all out and go 4 and then no Wishful Baton. But I mean, that's just a matter of preference. 2 Fighting Fury Belt to boost the damage output of our attackers. And another thing about Wishful Baton is you can't use Fighting Fury Belt. Like, you don't get the damage boost from Fighting Fury Belt or Choice Band or anything like that, because Wishful Baton has to be on the main attacker, or has to be on the attacker, but at the same time, it still conserves a lot more energy than Wishful Baton and EXP Share in itself. So, I don't know. I'm very torn. Test out the tool lines for yourself and let me know what works best for you. And then we are running 11 Darkness Energy, so statistically, we do hit Max Elixir or we should hit Max Elixir whenever we play it, just from a statistical standpoint. But anyway, that is the deck. Let's go ahead and see it in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Medali89 with what looks like a Volcanion deck. I mean, it might not be a Volcanion deck, but let's be real, it's probably a Volcanion deck. We do lose the coin flip, so we will probably go second. If I draw perfectly, then I can get an attack off turn 1. And okay, so this hand is actually pretty solid. What I can do is Ultra Ball, get rid of the Darkrai and the Darkness Energy, grab a Darkrai-EX, play that down, Max Elixir onto it, and then N. And that's just with the hand, not the 2 mulligans that I'm going to get off of my opponent. And wow, these are just phenomenal. Like, this is a great opening hand. Hopefully I get to keep it. My opponent does start with a Turtonator and is going to play down a Volcanion and just pass. So, oh, here we go. So what I can do, Ultra Ball, get rid of the Darkness Energy and the Darkrai-GX to grab... Let's grab another Darkrai-GX because I don't want to end my opponent, considering that they played absolutely nothing. So what I'm going to do is get rid of the second Darkrai-GX to grab a Lele. That way I can grab a... Sycamore. Let's play the Lele down, grab the Sycamore, thin out the deck just a tiny bit before I go for the Max Elixir, so that I can hopefully hit that with my Lele. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and just Max Elixir. I whiff it, so it's not a huge deal. And then let's Sycamore, get rid of the N, and then draw 7. And so this is interesting. What I think I'm gonna do. Well, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and restore one of my Darkrai. Like, just plain and simple. I actually probably should have tried to Max Elixir onto that. And then, yeah, I'm just going to end my turn right there. I can Ultra Ball for a Darkrai-EX next turn. I just kind of wanted to sit on that for the time being. If my opponent somehow manages to knock out my Yveltal, I will have the ability to... well, move the energy back to my Darkrai, and yeah, he is just going to Shell Trap for 50. That's honestly okay with me. I get a Guzma. If I had an energy in my hand, I would 100% Guzma. But I think, yeah, because I do not have another energy in my hand, I wouldn't be able to attack anyway, so like Guzmaing would not do much of anything. I mean, it would, yeah, reset the Shell Trap, but... honestly, at this point, it's not too huge of a deal. Let's go ahead and play the Darkrai down. And then I hate to get rid of even more supporters, but I mean, my opponent has nothing. I don't want to end him. And I could attack, which I actually think I'm going to do. Maybe. Or do I want to just attach to the Darkrai? I think the play is to actually just attach to the Yveltal, play the Fighting Fury Bell onto Darkrai, and then let's just Evil Ball. I'm going to have an energy back next turn. If my opponent chooses to knock out my Yveltal, I will get an energy onto my Darkrai-GX, and then I will be able to attack with that. So there's something right there. My opponent is 1000% going to knock me out. I mean, that's just the right play. Yeah, so he goes ahead and does that. Knocks out my Yveltal. He will be able to take 2 prizes, but I will be able to put an energy onto my Darkrai-GX. And... yeah, I mean, there's plain and simple. I can Guzma if I want. Ooh, this is nice. So what I think I'm going to do, well, first of all, I'm going to play the energy onto my Darkrai-GX so that I have an attacker. Then I'm going to Escape Rope into my Darkrai, and then Guzma the Turtonator back up. And then, do I have an energy? Yes, I do. So, I'm going to go ahead and restore a second Darkrai-GX to have even more Darkness Energy on board. And then I'm going to Dark Cleave this Turtonator and take my 2 prizes. So, yeah, that Escape Rope top deck was pretty clutch, not going to lie. And if my opponent attacks me, I can always just try to Ninja Boy into Tauros. And then Mad Bull GX for the knockout. My opponent is just going to play Rescue Stretcher to grab that Turtonator. We are getting very lucky that my opponent isn't drawing anything at all. Well, there he goes. But I mean, For the first couple turns, my opponent did not really draw anything, so we were actually able to somewhat set up, get manual attachments on board, and go from there. My opponent, Field Blower, gets rid of my experience share probably. Yeah, but leaves my Altar of the Moon. So, I mean, I'm actually pretty okay with that. Switches into the Turtonator. It's probably just a good play just to get the Turtonator into the active spot. That way he can potentially Nitro Tank GX if he draws all the right cards for that. Then my opponent will just Sycamore, get a fresh hand, and yeah, okay, there we go. My opponent is starting to move forward with that. What I can do, I get another Darkrai. I'm going to go ahead and play that down, and then Sycamore, just because my deck's getting low enough to where I think I can work with it. Let's Max Elixir, see if we can hit it. Okay, no, I know I have Wi-Fi. There we go. Okay, so I hit a Max Elixir. Let's power up one Darkrai completely, and then I think... Well, yeah, let's retreat into... do I want to retreat? Or do I want to attack with Darkrai? I think let's just hit the Turtonator with this Darkrai. That way I still leave a bunch of energy on board. Like, I have a 130 attack... 130 damage attack regardless. So all I need to do is just put a couple things in range of that, and I should be good to go. My Acerola could come through pretty clutch in the right scenario. No, Wi-Fi, I know I have you. I am on my phone right now. I have Wi-Fi. Ooh, okay, so my opponent's starting to go off right now. Get that star me down, get a Fighting Fury Belt onto the Volcanion. Whew, yeah, my opponent's getting some good stuff right now. Getting some very good stuff. So what he's going to do is double Steam Up onto his Volcanion on the bench, and if I still had my Field Blower, I would be able to Dark Cleave for the knockout, but unfortunately I do not. So, yeah. He is going to hit me for some pretty solid damage. If I can draw into a Fighting Fury Belt, I will be able to knock out this Volcanion, I think. Yeah, because 6, 7... Yeah, I will be able to if I drew a Fighting Fury Belt, but unfortunately I did not, so what I think I'm going to do is actually force my opponent to bring up something. He can allow me to knock out... So, I mean, if I attack into the Volcanion, that would just kind of be a wasted turn because it's a one-prize attacker. You don't want a two-shot a one-prize attacker. And if I'm going to take a single prize this turn, I'd rather it just be on the Starmie while powering up my Darkrai's later. So, yeah, let's just go into Darkrai-GX. I can Acerola, but I think... I'm just going to Sycamore at this point. Just, there we go. Okay, here are my items and my Field Blower. So, ooh, this is good. So I can Wish Baton the active Darkrai-GX. I can... Do I want to... Do I want to play these down in case my opponent has another Field Blower? I think I do. So even though I have Wishful Baton, I'm also going to put an Experience Share and a Fighting Fury Belt down. That way my opponent just simply can't get rid of all of my tools, and then I get a Guzma as well. So this works out very nicely for me. Crap, I should have played the Field Blower on that. Yeah, because now my opponent is going to be able to... Well, I guess it really didn't matter in terms of putting the Volcanion in knockout range, because what I can actually do is Dark Cleave it, and then that way when I draw into my Field Blower, yeah, there's another Field Blower. So let's see what my opponent decides to get rid of. Gets rid of the Experience Share and the Altar of the Moon. That's interesting. Because Wishful Baton does what Experience Share was basically going to do anyway. Okay, he does just Power Heater. That is fine. I can't play down Lele, but what I can do is play an energy onto another Darkrai. And I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I think I can get the knockout on this Volcanion. Ah, wait, but I have to retreat, so it wouldn't be able to do that. So the Altar of the Moon play was actually very smart by my opponent. And I can Ninja Boy into Tauros right now if I want. But I think I'm just going to Dark Cleave. And then this way I can play down Lele. Like, if he manages to knock me out, I can play down Lele for a Sycamore to draw into my Field Blower, which would get me a prize. And then, yeah, which would get me a prize, and then I'd also be able to attack into one of his EXs or GXs to win the game, potentially. So I think that's going to be what I go for. I probably should have Ninja Boy'd last turn, hindsight 2020. But I still think... yeah, I probably should have Ninja Boy'd into Tauros, and then he does just Power Heater me for 30. That's honestly okay. And then I can... let's Max Elixir, see if I can hit another energy. Yes, I do. Let's go ahead and throw that onto... let's throw it onto this Darkrai-GX. That way I can just have that... I can power up that Darkrai and my other Darkrai. And then let's Ninja Boy into Tauros right now. That way my opponent has to be terrified of it. Because Mad Bull GX will just win me the game right here after I Dark Cleave. So he can't take out a bunch of energy and avoid the end of the game in the same turn. He has to either take out the Tauros or take out the Darkrai. If he takes out the Darkrai, it's just game over. Because, I mean, Tauros will come in, Mad Bull GX, whatever he has. I mean, unless he plays down another Volcanion. But at that point, like, I can Mad Bull GX, and then I should pretty much have the game in the bag. And then if he doesn't attack the Darkrai, then that's just 3 energy on board that I can work with. My opponent will Guzma. I think he's just going to go for the Tauros. That is a very smart play. Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. Keeps him from losing. But, wait, all my draw supporters are in the discard pile. Yeah, that's what... darn it. So, I mean, I shouldn't have drawn as much, but I mean, my deck's so low anyway. My odds of drawing what I need just keep increasing. So what I'm going to do right here, play up my Darkrai-EX. This is getting tricky. I get a Field Blower. Wait, is that the win? Not quite. But I do have 1 Guzma left. I knew that I did. So what I can do is just bring up the Turtonator and knock out the... and knock it out with my Darkrai-GX. What I was saying about the knockout was like, wait, maybe I don't even need to Guzma, but no, I didn't quite have it on board. So, yeah, just bring up that Turtonator, knock it out, and we were able to win the game in no small part to my opponent's slow start. So, I mean, Turbo Darkrai, I mean, it's a solid deck. It's a very solid deck. I don't think it's top tier. I think it has its struggles, and it's not nearly as fast as it is in Expanded, thanks to Dark Patch, but I think Darkrai-GX helps it out a lot. And as you can see, Darkrai-GX put in a ton of work to where it was even the MVP of that game. So, yeah, that was a very, very good first match. Let's go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against Inira Moone 8 with, honestly, I have no idea what type of deck my opponent is running. But we do win the coin flip, meaning we will get to go first, so that is always a positive thing. And I even start off with, well, I mean, honestly, it could be a lot worse. So, I mean, nah. I mean, that's just not smart. What I was going to do was I was thinking about playing Lele as my starter. That way I could Max Elixir onto the Darkrai. But I think it is a very bad play to try to do that. Especially now. So let's just play the energy onto the Darkrai, and especially since I'm going first, there was no reason to try to do that. So what I'm going to do is grab, I hate to do this, but let's grab a Sycamore, because this also puts 2 Darkness energy in the discard pile for my 2 Darkrai-GX. So that's something at the very least. Let's go ahead and Max Elixir onto my Lele, and I apologize if you guys can hear me clearing my voice. Allergies are hitting me really hard for some random reason that I don't fully understand. But what I'm going to do right here is, let's Max Elixir onto the Lele. That way I can have that attacker up and going and also have it as a Ninja Boy target, and then let's switch Max Elixir onto Darkrai, play the Altar of the Moon, and then I think just straight up switch right back into Darkrai. So yeah, because of Max Elixir, I was able to get 4 energy on the board turn 1. I'm going to be able to get a knockout on almost anything, to be honest, because I do have the Guzma in my hand. Well, obviously not a GX, but this is looking like an Alolan Muck deck, and if it is, then it's going to be relying on Salazzle, and I don't know what the Lightning type would be. Is the Lightning type... I don't know. I can't think of off the top of my head. Maybe he's running Tapu Koko, the promo that has free retreats. I mean, that's never a bad thing to run in those types of decks. I mean, you're already running DCE anyway. So running Tapu Koko is just kind of a, well, it's a Mon with free retreat, and that can do spread damage to set up knockouts. Oh, this is Raichu. That is really, really cool. Yeah, because the Raichu leaves the opponent paralyzed, so yeah, I really like that, actually. That's a very cool thing that my opponent is doing. So what I'm going to do, I have options right here. I can Guzma in something. I think I'm going to Guzma in the Salandit, because I have the second Guzma in my hand if my opponent is able to paralyze me with Raichu, so that I can switch out of that. Or do I want to knock out the Grimer with the DCE? I think the play right now is just knock out the Grimer with the DCE, because my opponent's Muck, my opponent's Alolan Muck has no way of coming in and attacking next turn. Like, the fact that my opponent did not play down a single energy means that my opponent's not going to be able to attack. So he is just going to play the DCE onto the Grimer. And then, I mean, honestly, if I knock out all of my opponent's Grimers, then he obviously can't get Mucks going. Well, even though the Muck comes in right there, so forget that. If my opponent does play... Okay, so the reason I'm holding on to my Guzmas... Well, never mind. But the reason I was holding on to my Guzmas is because Pikachu, or Raichu leaves you paralyzed, Muck's GX attack also leaves you paralyzed. So using those are ways that allow me to get out of that. And yeah, if I had the Guzma, I would be able to just Lysander up the Salandit and knock it out. So can I flip heads? No, I don't, and I actually think that's going to be my opponent. That's going to allow my opponent to get a knockout. Yeah, I think he is. So I'm going to play the energy right there, play the Wishful Baton onto the Darkrai that has the energy, and then let's just end. I mean, it gives my opponent a fresh hand of 6, gives me 5, but maybe I can draw into something. Unfortunately not. Ah, dang it. If my opponent hadn't end, I was in a perfect situation, because it would have wasted my opponent's GX attack. And so I finally get out of the burn, but that doesn't matter anymore, because with the Choice Band, I mean, even if I had drawn into Field Blower, I would have been able to avoid the knockout, but unfortunately, my opponent's Muck got everything it wanted. So yeah, there's that. Darn it. But, I mean, I'm not in a horrible position. I am losing 2 energy, which is actually kind of significant, especially because I already have 2 in the discard pile and I have no means of energy recursion. But I will have a Darkrai-GX in the discard pile by the end of this turn after I Sycamore it away. So, at the very least, I'll have that, and then maybe I can do some Guzma plays onto Salandit to try to keep my opponent, or Salandit or Pikachu, to try to keep my opponent from being able to take care of all that. And yeah, we do see that my opponent grabbed the Salazzle, so I'm definitely going to target down the Salandit. That way my opponent cannot do that, cannot evolve, and then cannot take a knockout. So my opponent, is he going to Guzma? That would not be smart, because then Lele would... Yeah, okay. I was about to say, if my opponent Guzma'd right there, that would not be a smart play, because my Lele has energy and an experience share on board, and whatever he did, it would just mean that my energy would still be in play. So he does knock out the Lele, and there I even draw my Pokemon Center Lady just a little bit too late. So what I'm going to do, I know my opponent has the Salazzle, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Salandit, just retreat back out into my Darkrai, and then, yeah, just take the knockout, I guess, on this. I mean, this isn't flashy. It's not like hitting for a ton of damage. It's just, I'm doing what I have to do to try to win the game. And then the Pokemon Center Lady is going to come through very clutch, because if my opponent paralyzes me this turn, I'm gonna play the Pokemon Center Lady to completely heal that. That way I can get an attack off on this Muck. That way if he knocks me out, then it'll be a 1-for-1 in term. Well, it'll be a 2-for-2, I guess, technically speaking, in terms of the prizes. And yeah, my opponent just didn't even attack, so that was actually a huge misplay, because I think you definitely wanted to attack right there, as that, I mean, it still would have done 40 damage to my Darkrai. So I don't get why my opponent decided not to attack right there. How do I want to do this? Let's go ahead and actually, let's play the energy onto this Darkrai, and then Sycamore so that I can have the Darkrai-GX in the discard pile. I hate to get rid of my Pokemon Center Lady, but let's go ahead and restore my Darkrai, get an energy onto that, and then let's Field Blower away, get rid of both of those Choice Bands, because those things are really what's causing all the problems right now. And then let's Dark Pulse this Muck. If he knocks me out, then I keep my energy on board, and I can just knock him out in return. So once my opponent plays down Salazzle, ooh. No, I guess I'd be knocked out anyway. What I was going to say, if I avoided the knockout somehow, was I could play Acerola just to pick it up, and then reset the status and everything, and then I would potentially, yeah, I think I'd be able to knock out the Muck. Yeah, with my Fighting Fury belted one, I'd be able to knock it out after I played, and there's the Choice Band. So, never mind. My opponent is going to play the Salazzle down. That's honestly, it's not ideal, but it's workable. Yeah, he will just Chemical Breath, knock me out. I will get to retain both of my energy, which is pretty awesome. And then let's play them both onto the... Come on, play it onto Darkrai. Oh, okay, I guess you just have to click done. Whatever. And I will be able to retain my energy and go from there. So it ended up working out for me. In the end, my opponent has 2 prizes left. That's okay. Let's play a Lele down, and I think I'm just going to grab an N to end my opponent low. Never mind. Let's grab a Guzma. Yeah, let's go with Guzma, I guess. Or do I want to... Yeah, let's just grab it. Grab it, just because I can use it later. Let's play the energy onto Lele, and this way I can... Yeah, this way I can, like, escape rope and Guzma, bring back out my opponent's Alolan Muck, reset my status conditions and all that. So yeah, there we go. We take it out, and we do get a couple prizes. So it's really coming down to the wire. There's my N. Would have been nice last turn. But either way, we're in not a horrible, horrible situation. Because what I can do... I don't... Okay, unless he gets choice... No, he cannot get a knockout because he has to play Raichu down. He cannot play Salazzle. He cannot get multiple status conditions on me. Okay, please don't hit this heads. Please do not hit it. No, of course he does. So if my opponent ends me, I'm not in a good spot. But regardless, I think I can make it work. My opponent's Sycamores. So actually, what I can do is something kind of cheeky, I think. Field Blower gets rid of my Fighting Fury Belt. That's honestly okay because he can't knock me out anyway. If my opponent gets a Raichu and paralyzes me, or not. Okay, this works for me. So let's Fighting Fury Belt up this guy. And then I think... Yeah, I mean, it won't get me the knockout. I mean, even on the Lele. But regardless, I can play the Experience Share. Yeah, there's no Darkrai in there, unfortunately. So what I can do is, I think maybe just put the Muck in range of getting knocked out by a Dark Cleave next turn, or another Dark Pulse. I think that's the best play. I mean, I could try to hit Lele, but Lele is a 2-hit knockout anyway. And I want to keep my Guzma Escape Rope combination for later. I think right now my play is to just Dark Pulse. Yeah, hit him for 150. and if he knocks out my Darkrai-GX on the bench, then I can literally just bring it right back into play. If he knocks out my active Darkrai-EX with another Field Blower, then my Darkrai-GX will clean up the game. Yeah, and there's the Raichu, but I do have Escape Rope and Guzma, both of them as options to get out of that paralysis, so I'm really not worried at all. Like, Chemical Breath will be able to do a decent chunk to me, unless my opponent ends me. That could be very bad, and no, he just Sycamores. So I have the win. Like, I win right here. All I have to do is Escape Rope into Guzma, and I will be able to knock out my opponent's Alolan Muck for the win. And yeah, we're all good. We are all good right now. I can't even Acerola, but you know what? I'm going to go for the fancy Escape Rope play in order to get the win right here. So let's Escape Rope, make my opponent pick something to bring up. Brings up Raichu. Let's bring up Darkrai. And then Guzma back up the Muck because that one was the thorn in my side all game. Bring that up and knock it out with Dark Pulse. What I could have done was knocked it out with Darkrai-GX, but I feel like Darkrai-EX put in enough work and worked hard enough that I felt like he deserved it. So Darkrai-GX was the MVP of last game. Darkrai-EX was the MVP of this game. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, that's going to be the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. I mean, Turbo Darkrai, I mean, it's a little bit slow to be called Turbo, but it's still a very cool deck that I encourage you guys to try out if you have the means to do it. Once again, I hope you enjoyed watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and this is Styx, signing out. Why not? See you guys.